We're now in the third week of April, and in England we call it the mid-spring. Late spring is usually at the end of May or the third week in May. So we got another more month of spring to come, and a lot of the deciduous trees start producing a lot of leaves. So look at all these long shoots. These long shoots have all been produced, you won't believe, in the last month, in the last 4 weeks. So this tree is getting a bit unkempt. So this is the time we have to start bringing the tree back to shape. So if you come around here, and this is the front of the tree, as you can see, or could be the back, possibly the back. So these long shoots are due for a trim because it's spoiling the outline of the tree. Knowing when to cut is another matter, and that requires some skill and knowledge. Let me explain to you why I sometimes let these grow long, because many people feel that they've got to constantly trim to keep the shape in pristine condition. But we let some of these shoots grow, because while you let these plants grow, these shoots and the leaves grow, it feeds back into the tree and gives the tree strength and nourishment, and it strengthens the twigs and the branches. So we don't always cut it as soon as it comes out. So you can see the new growth has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, about 6 pairs of leaves already. So normally you could cut all that off, but in fact I'm going to cut more than that. But I usually let these leaves grow first, because while they grow for the last month, they feed back into the tree. So don't always rush to trim everything off straight away. It does take time to feed back and strengthen the tree. So now that they've produced enough leaf, I can go around and just trim it back to shape. Some people are very fussy and trim to an outward pointing node, but as long as the overall shape is okay, I'm not too bothered. And you can see that I'm using my favorite Felco secateurs as well. You can also use the trimming scissors. Both tools are okay, whichever you wish. I still think that a lot of bonsai is just sophisticated topiary. And topiary means, forming these bushes into these very nice shapes. In fact, in a week's time, I'm going to be taking part in a festival called Clip Fest, and that festival is about just trimming ordinary trees, not necessarily bonsai, to give it an interesting shape. And that will be a very interesting event that I'm going to record and show you. So go all round. Because this tree is fairly light and airy, I'm not too bothered about leaf cutting. Some people are always obsessed with leaf cutting, but there is no need for leaf cutting in this particular instance. Although, mind you, some of the Zelkova brooms, the very small exhibition type broom trees with Zelkova, they are in fact leaf cut to get the leaves small and to get sunlight into the structure so that it gets strong shoots and you improve the ramifications. So that is what I've done. So if you look at the ground here, this is what I've pruned so far. So this is what has been done to this tree. Now let me look at some other trees. I'm going to talk about pines on another occasion, because there are a lot of pines on the nursery. So if we come here and look, these candles, we're going to take you right through the nursery. That will be another video about the treatment of the pines. So these are new shoots, but with conifers like pines, they produce what we call candles. But I'll leave that for another day. While I'm here, I've come across a crab apple, and you see the long shoots on this one. So all this long shoot, about 8 to 10 inches, has been produced in the last 4 weeks. So I've allowed it to grow, is fed the tree. So I'm going to cut back to say like 3 nodes. So you can see the difference in color. This light color, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 pairs of leaves, have been produced in the last 4 weeks. So I leave about 1 or 2 pairs of leaves like that. 1 or 2 pairs of leaves. That one also. And that can set the flower bud for the next year. And it also keeps the tree in good shape, not getting too big so that it doesn't lose its way and doesn't lose its shape. So that is what I would do with a crabapple like this. Now I'm going to move to another position. If you follow me, we will look at the edible figs. The edible fig is Ficus carica, and I have a very good example here. See the size of the trunk, so thick. So these are the new shoots coming, and you can see the new figs also coming there. Now this tree I need to deal with in a different way. If I continue to let this grow, this will become a long branch and the shape will be spoiled. So I'm going to do something drastic. I'm going to take it off from the hard wood like this, and mainly to keep the shape compact. But with figs, they are so easy to propagate. I'm going to stick this in soil and I'll get a new plant from this. So I'm not going to waste these. I'm going to keep all these 4 striking cuttings. So I'm going to do this to all the ends of the shoots just to keep the tree compact. It seems a bit drastic, but it needs to be done, otherwise, as I said, you lose the shape of the tree. Where I think it is manageable, I'll probably do it at a later stage. So that's what I've done to that. Now, if I take you to another tree which has a similar situation, and that is the horse chestnut. So I'll take you to that spot. This is a very large Korean hornbeam, and I've let the leaves grow so that it feeds and strengthens the tree. But there comes a point where I need to reveal the trunk. It's a very impressive tree, but as it is, it's not doing anything. So I've got to, as we call it, bite the bullet and show the trunk. So in here, there is a very, very beautiful trunk. If you just take a little peek, that is what I need to show. So we will get a lot of cuttings from this because Korean hornbeam are very desirable. And I'm going to strike cuttings and do some judicious pruning. So straight away you can see I've started revealing more trunk. So that is what we're aiming to achieve. Anything coming in the front comes off. I wish the European hornbeams had this character, but Korean hornbeam have this beautiful bark which the European hornbeams don't have. The botanical name, some people call it Carpinus koreana, but I think it's also called Carpinus tuxani novii. So you notice that I can use my felcos, I can use these ordinary pruning scissors, whichever you wish. As I say, there's no right and a wrong tool, just as there is no right and a wrong way to do anything. It's just that I prefer the feel of the felcos And you notice that this is such a mature tree that it's loaded with little flowers. And if you leave them to flower, they set seed. In fact, we collect our own Korean hornbeam seed and we sow them. And they all turn out extremely nice. We want to create space between the branches so we don't let it grow upwards. So literally within a minute, just a minute's work, I've revealed that beautiful trunk. Telling the true age of trees can be quite a tricky business because it depends very much on where they're grown. If they're grown in warm parts of Korea or Japan, they would grow quite rapidly. But if you tried growing this in temperate climate like in the UK climate, they would take years and years to get thick like this. Although the European hornbeams grow very rapidly, but the exotic hornbeams don't make as much growth. A lot of people are terrified of doing this task because they don't know how much to prune. But you can see already, this is literally like 2 minutes work. You know, you can see that the tree is looking very, very different. You couldn't see that trunk a minute ago. And here we are, looking very different. And of course, by doing this, I will get more ramification. And again, because this is a mature tree, I'm going to keep a nice mature dome shape. At last the sun is shining. I'll just show you a twig. Look at that, that's at least 5 inches long, and that's all current season's growth. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 leaves already on this. So they do grow fast, and you've got to just keep on top of it. So again, the purpose of pruning, if I may remind you, is to let light into the structure inside and to create ramification. Ramification is simply making more side shoots grow to get finer shoots. can see the very subtle layers that I've created. So you don't notice I look at each twig and then decide where to cut. I just do basic topiary work. And there you are, look at that beautiful trunk. You can now see the tree with all its power and grandeur of that big trunk. So this is how we prune these trees. I will now move on to another subject. We switch the camera on. I'll take you to a horse chestnut. This is a very large horse chestnut or conker tree. Look at it. The trunk is massive and the base is at least 2 foot, the nibari. I created this in 1986 when I dug some trees up from a tree nursery, and it has been training for the last 38 years, ever since I've been at Herons. The new leaves, of course, are very small, and you can already see these are what we call the sticky buds. In England, we're very fond of calling them the sticky buds. So you can either prune it right back to there, or even prune it there and leave one pair of leaves. But again, because we are controlling the shape of the tree, I'm going to do something drastic. I'm going to take it back into the hardwood. Or it's really depending on how you want to control the shape of the tree. So don't be afraid to be a bit drastic and take the tips out, otherwise they will become long branches. So on this one, for instance, if you look at this one, all this 1, 2, 3 pairs of leaves, 4 pairs of leaves have been formed. I just keep 1 pair of leaves, and if you want to, let the leaves grow for another 2 weeks, and then you can do a leaf cutting exercise by removing all the leaves, and it will force it to produce a new set of leaves straight away. So horse chestnut, because it's such a vigorous tree, they are very obliging and they will produce new shoots and leaves very easily, and you can get this ramification. So you can see how well ramified it is. So many twigs and shoots coming from this tree, and that comes from simply taking the leading shoot out. I find that a lot of customers bring these trees to me and they get so lanky and out of shape, and it's all because they are afraid to prune. They're afraid to prune the ends. So simply prune the tips and you will have good control and create ramification. While I'm here, these are maples. They haven't produced long shoots yet, so I'm not in a hurry to prune these. So you got to judge when is the right time to prune. When they produce new shoots, I will then prune it back. But because these have only produced like 2 shoots, I won't be in a rush to prune them. See, all that green is the new shoots. So I'll wait till it gets a bit longer and then I'll prune. So just beware that you've got to strike a balance between letting the shoots grow to feed the plant by creating, all the photosynthesis and feeding back into the twigs and branches, and also controlling the length of the growth so that you get a very compact tree. So I will look for 1 or 2 other examples and show you what we do with deciduous trees in mid-spring. There you go. Now, for good measure, I just discovered that one of our staff potted up some of these 2-year-old horse chestnuts. So this stem was produced last year, and this green shoot, which is about 3 inches long, was produced this year. So you can see that this is a young one of 2 or 3 years old, and this is about 45 years old. And what I will do, the leaves are already quite big. I'm going to take the tip out so that it doesn't grow too long. Take all the tips out, and it's going to force branches to grow. So if you have a horse chestnut like this, that is the thing to do. As they say, you got to be sometimes cruel to be kind. I don't think that's a good analogy, but that is what I'm trying to convey to you, that you've got to do something which looks cruel, but in fact it is good for the tree, good for the bonsai. This is a conker tree made from a grafted red conker. So the graft is there, and I have had flowers on it once. It is a red one. As you know, there are two types of horse chestnut, the ordinary white flowered one and the red flowered one. So this is a red flowered one. On conker trees, unless you do leaf cutting, you do not get small leaves. Now, the leaves are small on this because they are just new growth. These are new growth, so the first flush of leaves are small, but the subsequent leaves will get bigger and bigger. So those are the first leaves, second leaves will be like that. So what we have to do is cut them off. If I wanted to be even more pedantic or meticulous, I will cut every single leaf off, cut it off early. So we're doing a leaf cutting to all the conker trees, and you see how big the leaves are here because it's getting a lot of sunlight, so those leaves get big. And I don't mind doing to the conker trees so early. Normally I leave the leaves to grow for a while because they feed into the branches and trunk to strengthen the tree, but because the conker tree is such a vigorous tree, there is no fear of them not producing new leaves, and certainly no fear of them suffering because I've removed the leaves too early. So by doing this, the next set of leaves will become certainly smaller. With these conker trees or horse chestnut, you can do this procedure maybe 2 or sometimes 3 times in the year, and you will keep getting smaller and smaller leaves. This is the only species that I dare do it so often because I know that they are vigorous and they will come back very readily. I think if I wait another 3 weeks, this tree will be covered with new small leaves very soon. Horse chestnut are always a novelty, but usually people grow them as small plants, and they are afraid of growing them large, and they certainly don't do the leaf cutting. So they leave the leaves, and of course you end up with these massive leaves which don't look right for the scale of the tree. So I will follow the progress of this through. When it produces new leaves, I will show you on another video what has happened to these. So if you have a horse chestnut or any other plant that has large leaves, I think the field maple is another subject you can do the same thing. So there you go. Don't be afraid. With maples, I haven't rushed to prune the ends because I want them to make more growth before I prune. So every tree has to be treated slightly differently. So I hope you've learned something from this video.